Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we are going to be kind of learning together how to make a sublimation lovey. If you want to see how I did it and kind of learn the things, the tips and tricks that I learned along the way, just keep watching. If you're new to my channel, my name is Leslie. My channel is all about crafting on a budget. I do mostly sublimation videos, but I also do Cricut and sewing videos. So if any of those things interest you, please consider subscribing, joining my YouTube family, and please feel free to comment down below and let me know what types of things you want to see in my videos. And that helps me kind of just make videos that you're interested in. And yeah, let's just jump into this video. So if you don't know what a lovey is, it's just like a small, like miniature baby blanket. It's like something they can just cuddle with and hold. That's what we're going to be making today. We're going to be doing some with some ribbons, but you can do these without ribbons. You can also add like a piece of fabric or ribbon here and kind of add some snaps so that you can put like a pacifier or something else to it. So I think they're really cute. So you can really just make it whatever size you want. I went with 12.5 by 12.5. I made my design 13, so it was kind of 13 by 13, but I did it 13 because I kind of figured that with the heat of my heat press, the fabric will kind of shrink just a little bit. So I just wanted to kind of make sure that it would be around the size that I wanted it to be. So keep that in mind as well. And if you have a smaller printer like me, one that prints 8.5 by 11 and 8.5 by 14, you're gonna need to cut your design in two. And when you trim it to kind of fit 2 pieces of paper, make sure that the second one kind of has an overlapping of the first design that you put on the first paper. That way, when you go to tape them together, there's no gaps, there's no white lines, it just all merges nicely together. So for this project, you're gonna need some heat tape, some ribbon. You can really do whatever size ribbon you want. I just have a few different sizes here, and I'm gonna see which ones go well with my design. You're gonna need some clips. You can use pins as well. I prefer clips, especially because we're gonna be working with thicker layers and minky fabric, and clips just tend to kind of just hold things better. You need a lint roller, some minking fabric. You can do the minky with the little polka dots, or you can do just regular minky fabric, whatever you want. Or you don't have to do minky, but something that's nice and plush and soft would be good. You're gonna need some no pill fleece. I get this at Joann's. I absolutely love it. Get it when it goes on sale. It was just on sale, and when it goes on sale, it's usually like $5.99 a yard, whereas regular price is like $15 a yard. So definitely get it when it's on sale. You're gonna need your design. You're gonna need a paper trimmer or some scissors to trim your design if you had to split it in two like I did. And then you can make this whatever size you want. It's totally up to you. You can make one that's like 12.5 by 12.5, or you can make one smaller that's like 9.5 by 9.5. It is, or you can just do whatever size you want. I'm gonna be making a bigger one, and I think I'm gonna make a smaller one as well. You're gonna need your heat press. Last but not least, you're gonna need butcher paper as well. And you're gonna need your sewing machine. To start off by trimming down our design, and we're just gonna trim a little bit into the design. Just like the tiniest bit into the design. And I just do that so that there's not that much white left over, because you don't want any white, because you're gonna be able to see that when you sub. And then if you use your paper trimmer, I recommend also going in with your scissors and then just kind of trimming any white, because sometimes, I think it depends what type of paper trimmer you have, but sometimes there's like white fuzzies from the blade going through it. So just cut that out so that there's no white, and it can just blend nicely with your other paper. So you just want to overlap it, and it's kind of like a little puzzle. You just want to make sure that everything fits nicely how it's supposed to. Just shift it. I'm just gonna take a little bit of tape and tape right here, just because I don't have any room at the edge. But normally you just take some tape and kind of tape it at the edge and bring that to the back. Making sure not to shift everything. So make sure everything's lining up. And then just flip it over. And now take some heat tape and just tape all the way across that seam in the back. And now your design is ready to go. Again, make sure there's no white parts where there shouldn't be, because you're gonna notice that. I'm gonna put this to the side for a second. And now we're gonna get our fleece. And you can really use whatever fleece you want, if it's thicker. But I just find this one to be the best because it doesn't really shed. So now we're gonna get our lint roller. Make sure you have a new sheet. And we're just gonna lint roll in the right direction. So you can kind of just move your hand and see which way is the right direction. Everything would just fold over. If it's the wrong direction, everything will like stick up. And once you have lint rolled, you're gonna take your design, flip it over. I'm gonna trim this side just so I know more or less how big my design actually is. And flip it over. I'm gonna try to get as close as I can to the edge. And as close as I can to the bottom, avoiding the selvage part. And the selvage part is the part that has all the little holes. So once I have it where I want it on here, I'm gonna take my heat tape. You can put it on top so that it doesn't shift. And then you're just gonna start taping it. So once you have it all done, you can take rotary cutter or fabric scissors and you can just cut it out as close as I can so that I can avoid wasting fabric. And we're gonna take this to our heat press. So you wanna make sure you put a butcher paper underneath to protect your heat press. You're gonna take your fabric, make sure the paper is facing up. You're gonna take another piece of butcher paper and put that on top. And then we're just gonna press. I'm gonna do 385 degrees for 60 seconds. My heat press runs hotter, so that's why I do 385. But if yours does not, do 400 for 60 seconds. So now you wanna make sure you throw away your butcher paper because the design probably came through there and you don't wanna reuse that and have that design get reactivated and transferred to the next project you're working on. Get your heat glove because this is gonna be hot. Just put your hand down and then just get one corner and then just slowly peel it up. You don't want to do it too hard or you're gonna mess up the fur. And this is how mine looks. Had full ink release pretty much. And then that's how it looks. So now we're gonna take our fabric that we just pressed and we're going to cut off all the white parts. And you can use, I think a rotary cutter is the easiest way to do this. And you can take a ruler, an acrylic ruler, line it up at the edge, put some weight on it, and then just cut across like that. So we're just gonna do that for all 4 sides. So now that we have it all trimmed out, we're gonna get our minky fabric. You can line up your design on it and kind of just trace it out. You wanna make sure you're lining it up as close to the bottom as you possibly can. And same thing with the sides, just so that you're not wasting too much fabric. And you can put some pattern weights down to hold it if you would like. And then you can just take your rotary cutter and just trim around it. Okay, so now that we have our pieces all cut out, we're going to start figuring out where we want our ribbon. So we're gonna take our subbed piece and we're gonna take some pins. Pins are gonna work best for this. And we're gonna figure out where we want our ribbon. Now when we're putting these on, we want to make sure that we are putting it with this part out and this part's gonna come in like this. Because when we sew it and everything, we flip it inside out, then the tags will be sticking out. So don't put it this way or it's not gonna turn out right. So make sure that the raw end is outside of your subbed piece. And then you're just gonna stick a pin and put it in there. And then we're gonna baste it down. So you're gonna do that for all your ribbons. Okay, so we're gonna baste it. You're just gonna do a long stitch, and we're just gonna try to baste it just at the very tip of it. And we're just gonna baste it on, don't back stitch or anything. So you just wanna baste it just enough for it not to move. Again, don't back stitch. And then when you remove your pin, it should be on there. Like that. So we're just gonna do that for all of them. So they should all just be basted in place. This is just gonna help it not shift as we're sewing the 2 layers together. Once we have basted them all on, we're just going to trim the edges. Make sure that all your ribbons are facing inside, and we're just trimming the raw edge on the outside of the fabric, trimming it down to the same size of our fabric. Once we have done that, we're just going to put our sublimated fabric and our minky fabric right sides together and clip all the way around, leaving a 2.5 inch gap that you can just mark with a marking tool. And we are going to be sewing all the way from one line, pivoting at the corners, and all the way to the other line, making sure we leave that gap. I'm going to be using a 1/4 seam allowance foot, and just sew all the way around, making sure to pivot at the corners with the 1/4 seam allowance. Once you get back to where you started, make sure to backstitch, and make sure that you backstitch at the beginning as well. We're going to use some pinking shears to trim all the way around. Make sure you don't trim that 2.5 inch gap that you left, but make sure you're trimming as close as possible to the stitches. If you don't have pinking shears, you can use scissors. Now that we have trimmed it, we're just going to flip it inside out. You can just grab the furthest corner from the inside and just pull out gently, making sure that you don't rip those stitches along that opening. And you can take a chopstick and just run it across the seams. Bring out those seams, just nice seams all the way around, and to poke out your corners as well. We are then going to just tuck at that opening we left, and it should roll in. And then we're going to take our iron and we're going to just steam that close and clip it so that we're aware of where that closing is. And we want to just make sure that it's nice and closed and doesn't shift before we can sew it. And then we're just going to take our iron and we're going to steam all around our lovey, just making sure we have some nice straight edges. And then we're going to top stitch at a 1/8 seam allowance all the way around, making sure that we back stitch at the beginning and end, and making sure that our gap is nicely closed. And again, make sure to back stitch when you come back to where you started. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Something I did want to mention is when you are first kind of sewing the 2 layers together, make sure you're paying attention to how your ribbon is. I didn't do a good job of doing that on my corners, as you can see, like they're like all chuecos, all crooked. And so that was my biggest mistake. I did a better job with like the side ones. So just make sure you pay attention to what direction it's going, because it's kind of gonna make it in that direction. It's gonna make it crooked or whatever. So make sure you have them straight. Make sure you're just checking all your layers, making sure you're grabbing all of them. That's like the main thing to keep an eye out, because that's also gonna ruin like your top stitching. It's gonna make it hard to top stitch around that. But other than that, I think these are really quick and easy. Again, you don't have to add the ribbons. And if you do add the ribbons, make sure you're not selling these, because Taggies, the company, will come for you in like 1 second. So these are just gifts, but you see this one came out perfect. So you just really got to make sure you are paying attention to these corner ones. If you decide to put it in the corner, just make sure you pay attention to your ribbon. Other than that, these are super easy to make. Great beginner project for sewing and sublimation. So let me know down below if this is something you guys make. These are great baby shower gifts. And thank you guys so much for supporting me. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.